time for Winedown with your host, Missy, and the Winedown Wednesday crew. Join us tonight as we discuss topics that affect families on a daily basis. So grab your glass, your cup, or even your blanket. Settle in on the couch and join us in the room as we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hola, family, and welcome to another live edition of Winedown Wednesday. I am your host, Melissa Davis. I go by Missy. I always forget to change that because that is government, and I don't need nobody calling me Melissa. It is Miss, so it is officially changed. Welcome again. We are excited to be back in the room with another show. I have a feeling the show tonight is going to be like the one last week where we're going to feel like we ran out of time because it was just so good. I'm excited about our guest speaker, which I will introduce in just a second. Joining me in the room as normal, we have Rachel, Angie, Nick is in the room. I see Sheen is in the room, and Jasmine is starting to become a fan favorite, and we love her for being in the room. And we are excited. Again, we are excited. Remember, there's no hate speech here. We can agree to disagree, and what happens at your house, maybe just the way you do it. We are here not to tell you what to do, but just to offer you some extra suggestions on how to get things done. So it's all about family. Feel free to like and share our broadcast tonight. Invite people to come in to the room and watch. If they have questions, we are monitoring the chat. And as always, someone will put the question on the floor so that you can get your questions answered. I'll make sure as well, if you follow up with me after the show and you have questions for our guests after we are off air, that we get them to her and she can give us answers, and we will put them out on our Facebook page for you guys. So joining me in the room tonight is a very, very special guest to me. Again, thank you to Dr. Wortham for last week. She was amazing. We are still talking about last week's show, but tonight we are joined in the room with Miss Latesha Fushi. Tisha and I go back, oh Jesus, it's been over 20 years. Tisha and I used to sing in the choir together back in North Carolina so many years ago, and we were both kind of in that same vein of learning and education. We were both early childhood providers. We separated at some point. Tisha kept going into early childhood. I did more of the doula services. So I get them here, she teach them, that kind of thing. Like it's a tag team because it takes the whole village. So I'm excited that she's in the room. Let me tell you a little bit about my friend Tisha. You'll see Latesha, but I call her Tisha. Tisha has her bachelor's in human science and will graduate in December, whoop, whoop, with her master's degree. We are so proud of her. Tisha has been doing this for 31 years. And currently she's a teacher and an assistant director at Childcare Matters there in North Carolina. So I'm excited for you all to hear some of the ideas and some of the things that we do in different states, right? Because we can kind of get in our bubble where we feel like there's one way to do things. And so to hear about what you can do with your little person to ensure their best start to their education, which starts from day one. We've been talking about that. There's intentional education and there's unintentional education. So whether you're writing on a chalkboard or teaching them on a piece of paper, everything that you do with your children is learning. They are learning your dialect. They are learning your language. They are learning your culture. They're learning everything, the good, the bad, and unfortunately the ugly. So being mindful of how we teach them and what's in their environment, because they're sponges. And like Dr. Wortham told us last week, that by 2 or 3, their brain has soaked up 50% of what in those first couple of years. So we've got to make those years count. So even if your child is older than that 2 or 3, pick it up from here and keep moving, because they are learning things every day. So I want to give Tisha a chance to say hello and tell us a little bit more about herself, and we're going to get into this conversation, y'all.
Hi guys, I'm super excited to be on tonight. I just like to start out by saying thank you guys for coming out. I know it's late, but I'm always up to talk about children. I'm an advocate for children. As Missy has said, I've been teaching for 31 years. Teaching is my passion. I have worked with youth of an older age, but my passion is to work with young children. And one of the things that Melissa stated is she stated that children start to learn at about, what they learn from the age of 18 months to 3 years old. That is the most critical time for children and their learning. Read, read, read. Identify. You need to identify things for children. And another thing that we need to keep in mind is that our children are very intelligent kids. A lot of times we think that conversations that we have with children sometimes can be too advanced, but trust me when I say, the more you read, the more you talk to them, the more clarity you give in the things that you say to children, the better off they will be. So right now I'm currently in the master's program, as Melissa stated to you all, and I have learned just even more. It's limitless learning when you are learning about children, because there are no two children who are the same on this earth, even if they're twins. It's something different about each and every one of them. And so for me, I see them all the time. And I tell people, if you're working in early childhood education, you have to be like a chameleon. You have to change all throughout the day. You have to change according to the children who are in your care. There's no one way to learn. There's no one way to teach. There's no child that's going to get everything, and there's no child that's just never going to get what you're doing. If a child is not learning in your class, it's not the child. It may be how you're teaching the child and the way that you are bringing things to children. So if you guys have any questions about anything in particular that you would like for me to talk about tonight, please feel free to ask. I can tell you a little bit more about, I know Melissa gave me a couple of questions that she would like for me to address, but I would really like to hear from you all as to what exactly it is that you are looking to find out some information about as far as young children.
Jasmine, I'm gonna come to you, even if you don't want to come camera, or if you type some questions, because I know you had some very specific questions for me about setting up the space for your little person to learn. I'm going to give you the floor for the first question, because this is right where you've been the last couple of weeks.
Yes, and it's actually funny because I took Cassidy to a music class today, and we had a sign in there talking about pre-K.
Yes.
So my daughter was born after that cutoff. I think it was September 1st is the cutoff. She was born September 29th. So
Okay.
I was hoping that she could start pre-K at 3 years old, but I think she's going to have to be delayed until 4.
Mm-hmm.
But so in the meantime, what I want to do is set up, we have a playroom for her, and I want to set it up like a little classroom. And I was asking Missy like some advice on like some must-haves to put in there to help with her development.
So let me go ahead and tell you, one of the biggest things that most childcare facilities are using now is what they call the STEM curriculum. Now, STEM curriculum stands for, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Those are the areas in which that they are now focusing more on. We know that children learn through play, but stick to the basics. And I'll tell you why I say that. There are so many things that you can buy and you can set up in a classroom, but children learn off of just basic things like blocks, trucks, things for sorting and counting. One of the things that helps us to know what's best for a child is what is developmentally appropriate. One of the things that I always suggest to parents is, if you know anything about Kaplan or some of the books where you order things for childcare centers, if you look inside those books, they tell you things that are age appropriate for your child. So if you said your child is 3 years of age.
She's 2. She just turned 2.
She's 2. She just turned 2. Okay, so you're going to be looking more into, so if you're thinking about breaking it down into different centers or different things that you would look for, one of the biggest things that you can do is everything should be something that she's learning with hands-on. One of the things, exploring is so big now for children, that children should be able to go up to things and to be able to use more in-depth thinking about some of the things that they're doing. Like for instance, in a science area, that's the first thing for STEM, the S for science. You're thinking about just sorting. You're thinking about children being able to nature things that are around them. You are bringing awareness to children about things that are around them. So you not only some of the things that you'll find in there is you'll also find things like bugs, talking to children about different things, identifying. That is so big, being able to identify things for our children. A lot of times, like for instance, we'll tell a child, that's a bird. Instead of saying that's a bird, that's a robin. That's a blue jay. If you see a ship, not that's a boat, that's a ship. That's or if you see a paddle boat, that's a paddle boat. Just identifying things more in depth and asking your children open-ended questions. One of the things in the African-American communities that we find is that a lot of times we talk at our children and not talking to our children. So when, and I'll tell you why I say that is because we're good with listening and taking demands. But when it comes time for children to express how they feel or to be able to express different things, that can sometimes be hard because I know for me, I couldn't question my mom. I couldn't allow myself to say things to my mom or do certain things because that was a level of disrespect. So when you bring things into the environment for children are able to look at those things and to be able to explore them and to look and to ask questions. So you want to have things like blocks for stacking. You want to be able to have them to use their imagination and be able to tell them, let's build this, let's do this, let's do that. You also want to be able to have, believe it or not, there are only 4 things really that they want in an art area if you're thinking about art for children. A lot of times we have way more than what we're supposed to. They think that kids should only be painting, using chalk, using stamp pads, and Play-Doh. You think those are very basic things, right? Cotton balls, stickers, pens like pens and pencils, all of those are developmentally inappropriate for 2-year-olds. And we have a lot of those things that we think or that we have in these centers or that you might put into an area that's really not what they would call safe for children, but it's just basics, basic things. At that age, kids are curious. So when they have those things, you're thinking about curiosity, but where's the first things that most things go? They're in your mouth. So you have to watch things as far as size. Everything is about size. And another thing, what if you see a child and they're not happy about something that they're doing, what's the first thing they do? Hit, push, throw. So, and that's another thing. We never make kids say they're sorry because they never are, believe it or not.
No, they're not.
Do something. When kids do something, they hit you for a reason, or they do. Now, not telling you that we don't tell kids that you need to talk it out, but we want to get to the root of the problem of why it happened. We don't necessarily tell kids, because what you'll find is a kid will do something and say, sorry. They're not sorry. They've been trained to say that and do that. So you want to say, why did you do that? What could you have done better? So in that area, we're looking for blocks. You're looking for large blocks. You're looking for large things, because if you're looking for fine, if you think about fine motor, you don't want small things that kids can't really manipulate and put together, because then they become frustrated. And what happens when you have a frustrated 2-year-old? They throw it to the side and find something else to do. So a lot of times it looks like you don't have a lot of things in the room, but it's what you do with the things that are in the room that you do have. Dolls, you have food so that you can pretend. But at that age, a lot of what you're doing is you're mimicking things for children so that children can learn everyday skills and to be able to take those things and run with it. In our 2-year-old classroom, we have things that are in our room, but we don't have a whole bunch of toys, because when you have we have toys, but not a lot of toys to the fact that when you get them in there, it's overwhelming to kids, and then kids don't play with it. Have you ever seen a room where a child has so many toys and you always wondering why they don't want to go and play? It's because you probably have too many things out. So when you take a certain amount of things out for kids to play with and to manipulate and to explore, you want to have a few things so that they can bring their focus to those particular things that you have out. and that they can learn and they can start to play with and start to appreciate the things that are out, versus if you have a room of 20 baskets, 30 baskets, they're just going to dump. They're not really going to play with that stuff. They're not really going to. And if you really look at a 2-year-old, if you let them go, all they're doing is dumping things out. So when they're dumping those things out, we have to show them the correct way to play with those things, the correct way, but it can be overwhelming too. If you get too many toys, too many things out for children, they aren't going to clean up. They aren't going to pick that stuff up. It's overwhelming.
That's like for us, when we go shopping and you ever walk into a store and the store is disorganized and the first thing you do is you turn around and you leave because it's overwhelming for us. So for a 2-year-old, like kid, and that's the thing. And we encourage them too, Tisha, is we'll tell them, and I think it was Nick's suggestion, to have certain things out and then put those things away for a couple of months and take something different out. So you can have different toys. You just don't have to have all of them out at the same time. If you bring them out in a rotation, they're excited to see them, and then they lose interest. You put them away and you bring something else out to go into rotation. And there's a lot of different blocks. They're the magnetic tiles. They're the bigger ones. They're the Duplo blocks. And they got the big Lego ones that they have to actually stand up and pick the whole block up. I love those. So when you talk about blocks, make sure, like she said, they're age appropriate, because if they come with small pieces, they're going in their mouths. And you can't, 2-year-olds are quick, Lord have mercy, they quick. Like you could be saying, in the process of saying no, and they've already got it in their mouths. So making sure that you're reading what's age appropriate is important when you're buying those toys.
That is. And another thing that you have to keep in mind as well is it's almost like, have you ever seen like on Christmas when all the kids, everything looks good under the tree while it's wrapped up? The moment everybody takes everything out and the papers everywhere and you're cutting things off, everybody's looking and like, this living room looks a mess. It's overwhelming. And to a child, their attention span is this long. So you're wondering why they're not interested. You're wondering why you may have too many things that are out. So like you said, if you just stick to the basics at that age, because like you said, you're trying to bring awareness to some of the things that you have. And when you have small things, show them what they can do with it. That's another thing that I look for when I go to a child care center. I don't want to just see teachers sitting watching children play. Are they engaging with the children? Are you showing the kids? So if I'm in the block area, I might say, oh, okay, Raphael, let's get ready. How would you like to come and build a tower with Miss Latesha? And then we get over and we start building things and we're like, oh, you've got to be dramatic. They're going to want to play with me because I'm engaged with them. But if I just sit over there, what are you building today? Oh, what are you going to do? Oh, stop that. What are y'all doing? That's not engaging with children. And so children will start getting into other things, and blocks will be interesting to them, 5 minutes? Then they're on moving to something else.
If that long. And we tell kids go play in the block area, but she's right. If you've never sat in the block area and showed me what to do with the blocks, and that's a big thing. And I hope you're getting these tips, because I know some of you all have been talking about daycares and how do I interview for daycare? What do I look for when I walk into a daycare center? I don't want to see complete clutter, but I don't want to see complete clean either, because that means nobody is having fun. Like, we can sort, and there's usually a teacher and a teacher assistant, and somebody's moving the kids through, and somebody just going behind. And if they're old enough, teach them to pick their own stuff up. Like my girls will go in and they'll be, no ma'am, come, let's come back. Let's pick this up and put these back in here, because you're teaching them organization, right? And I know as parents, a lot of time we're like, it's just easier to let them go and I'm just going to clean it up myself. Well, at some point they become adults that expect somebody else to clean it up behind them. Like, teaching them organizational skills is also all about the process.
And I never ask a child, do you want to? Guys, do you want to clean up? Hey guys, can you? It's never a question, are these blocks going to be picked up? You have to rephrase that. We'll be like, Okay, so it's time to clean up. Let's go over and pick up some blocks. Are you helping? Would you like to help Miss Latesha pick those up? Would you like to put this here? It's always encouraging them to do things, but even if they walk away or they're not, you can say, okay, well, when you're ready, we're going to make sure that we come back and pick these things up. I can see right now that you may not be ready, but you cannot go to another center, or you can't do this or do that until this is done. So you have to also set boundaries and standards for kids. Kids love structure, believe it or not. They feel more comfortable when they know what is going to happen next. If you go to a child care center and my kids know after breakfast, we're having center time. They know that's automatically when it comes in. They know that when the timer, and I have a timer. In our room, we set the timer. So when it's 5 more minutes, we'll do anything. 5 more minutes till clean up time, 5 more minutes till clean up. We'll sing songs, we'll do whatever. And when we cut that timer on, when it dings, that gives the child a chance to do whatever it is that they need to do, but they know when that thing dings, it is time to clean up. Sometimes we will try to rush kids to do things and take kids out of stuff. And then that's when you're going to get resilience. You're going to get frustration and different things. You have to be able to be patient and give kids a time to be able to be aware of what's going to happen next. Tell kids, okay, guys, 5 more minutes and we're going to have a snack, or it's 2 more minutes to finish your food because we're going to move on to something else. Kids have to know what's happening next. If you take them somewhere, you're just going to find a bunch of kids walking around looking if they don't know what's going to happen next, and they're going to be waiting on you to do it. So it's very important that whenever you're looking at a childcare center, I always want to know things from the teachers, because let me tell you something. You can go to a center and it can be state of the art, top notch. Everything in there looks top notch, but the teachers suck. And if you are at a chain center or a child care provider, you can have Bright Horizons or I don't know, We Care or Little People, whatever it is, they already have packets printed out. That's where their teachers are coming or teachers are going. So just because you give me an oppressive pack of paper and you tell me that this is what you offer and this is what you do, I want to talk to the teacher. Because if you are at a child care center for 6 months and you've seen 4 different teachers in your child's class, something's not right. Something is wrong. And usually it's management. But I'm going to tell you what, child care providers.
Latesha, can I entertain the opposite thought that, I mean, to your point though, like, you're talking to directors, they do this all day. Like they give packets and they give tours all day, and they have 8 different classrooms. So to not meet and have that one-on-one with the teacher who your child is going to be with all the time, like the directors don't know what literal morning to afternoon looks like. They don't know, are we actually like the timer thing? Like, do you guys use timers? Do you guys sing songs? What do you do when someone's not listening? And they can tell you, oh, we don't do timeout at that age, or in that classroom, they're supposed to, but you should really talk to the teachers or even observe. Like I'm at a point where I think I need to like go observe for a day, because the directors are telling me really great stuff, but I feel like it's getting lost somewhere between the director and the classroom. So
do you all have 5-star rating in your area? Do you all do the
I've not
star? Okay, so it's only in 7 states. We do star rating here. You can be between a 1 to a 5-star center. It is a book called Itters and Eckers, and they have a mandate and standards that are used that you have to abide by, and that things have to happen in order for you to have these stars. Now, depending upon how many stars you have is how much you can charge parents for the quality of care that they offer. So if you guys don't have that, that's a whole nother story. But
girl, you said it was the Eckers. Oh my God, I hadn't heard that since
we have
I moved to Maryland. Oh
yes, and so there are standards that you have, and so with the standards, it's a book, and in that book, it tells you how a top-notch center should be ran. But let me tell you what, back to piggyback on what she says, anybody can be a 5-star center for a day. If I know you're coming to observe me, and I know that you're going to come in my classroom and watch me, and you're from the state, I'm going to put my best foot forward. Good morning. Hi guys, I'm going to do all that. What you will find out is how you will find out the information you want to know is through talking to that particular teacher, because teachers don't leave childcare centers because of children. Teachers will leave because of either bad management or because they aren't being, or staff. Usually that's what it is. So whenever you talk to a teacher, you want to find out what she thinks about early childhood education. Where is her educational level? How long has she been teaching in childcare? You don't want to say how long you've been working here, because she could have been working here for 2 weeks, but she's been in childcare for 26 years. And if you've been in childcare for 26 years, do you have a degree? Because out of 26 years, you ought to have something.
That's
so.
facts.
And then, yes, that if you've been in childcare, you know, Miss Mary been here 42 years. Miss Mary haven't taken one class. Would you rather sit your child in Miss Mary's class, or would you rather sit her into Miss Sharon's class, who has a bachelor's degree, but she's only been teaching kids for 4 years? So it's very important to make sure that you're getting the quality care and what you're paying for. That's another thing. Make sure that they're doing what they say is happening on the lesson plan. Do you know how many child care centers I walked in and I just asked the question, so what's on the agenda for today? What do you mean? What are you guys supposed to be doing today? These lesson plans they have in the drawer, they've been using that same lesson plan for 5 years. They just put them up, change the date and put them up. But guess what? You don't ask any questions because you just know that little Sally comes home smiling every day. Hey, and you see a couple of pieces of artwork go home. I want to know what that lesson plan looks like. And I wish I told Melissa, I wish you're here, because my lesson plans, when I do my lesson plans literally are, I don't know if you guys can see it, but my lesson plans are 3 pages long. Because guess what? When I'm doing my lesson plan, I'm going to tell you what my objective is for learning. I'm going to tell you why what it is that I am teaching your child and what I want your child to get out of what I'm teaching your child. So I have goals that I set for children, and whatever the goals that I've set on this paper, I'm not just writing it down. I had to put some thought into it. So if you ever came to me and you asked me, what are we learning this week? I should be able to pull something out and be able to tell you what we're learning and how we're going to do. I don't just need to send home artwork. That's the first thing parents think. A lot of kids are doing something because they do art. No, let me give you an example. We talk to our children in our classroom about wood, just wood, for a whole month. And I guess you guys are like, what? What could you teach kids about wood for a whole month? Well, wood comes from trees. Trees give off oxygen. Trees make paper. Your house is made out, a lot of our houses are made out of wood. Wood gives off heat for fire because it gives off oxygen. When I first started to talk to my kids about wood, I bought a piece of wood block out of the block area, and I just showed them a piece of wood. But by the time we got finished talking about wood, my kids knew that wood came from trees. Trees give off oxygen. That wood also is in trees, and animals live in trees. Animals can build their nest out of pieces of wood. I had kids, my whole goal was to get kids' minds working and thinking. I wanted them to think more in depth about things when I'm teaching my children. I'm not just sitting in a classroom all day and I'm just singing songs and reading books. I want your kids to be able to be thinkers, be active thinkers, so that they can think and be like, Mommy, did you know that you can make paper? Like we had a book. It was, do you all know that you can make paper out of elephant poop? Didn't know that. Well, I learned that looking for information on just paper in general, talking to my children. So when you have an objective that you want children to learn, you have to put the steps in place to tell the parents how and what it is that you're expecting, because I should be communicating with you what we're doing here so you can also be working on it at home. I told my children for show and share on that Friday, please bring something that is made out of wood from your house and tell me what you use it for. One child bought in a wooden spoon. My mama uses this to stir up food. Somebody else bought in a wooden, there you go, what's pop you in church. Then you have my mama, So then we had another child bought in a wooden bowl. And you know what she said? My mommy put spices in here and they smell good. Well, you know, she was talking about a bowl to put some incense in that was at their house. But I had these kids looking for wood at their house, different things that were made out of wood. Another child bought in a chair. Their mom literally bought the chair in. She wanted to bring her potty chair because it was made out of wood. I had these kids' minds going. And they were excited. Why? Because I was excited about teaching them and I had objectives. Right? So I got excited. I made y'all think about wood, didn't I?
You did.
So, but my point is, when you find an educator who's excited about what she's doing. So when I'm talking to the kids like community helpers, the first thing they want to say is, who's a community helper? Police officer. Firefighter. But guess what we have? You got nurses, doctors, veterinarians. We got park rangers. You've got chefs. You've got all different kinds of people. So when we start talking about community helpers, I don't go to the go-tos. What about the sanitation workers? What about gardeners? What about fast food workers? What about people who drive buses? So when I start to talk to them and I say, and you know what? Because these people do these things, we ought to appreciate them. When you see someone picking up trash at your house, I said, what can you say? Thank you. Thank you for what you do. So you're teaching them compassion. You're teaching them to respect the world. And then I asked them, what can you do to be a community helper? What can you do at home? We had kids picking up trash. Mama's outside. She said the kids just wanted to put bottles and bags outside because they were just learning. So I hope that, you know, I'm going on and on, but I'm just trying to get you guys to see what you should be looking for when you are looking for a qualified teacher who's going to teach your child. You deserve that because you're paying for it, right?
Absolutely.
Can I just say that, you know, this all makes perfect sense, but it's not common. It's really not. And I don't know if it's like just a complex I have, you know, you guys think I'm nice, but some people think I'm aggressive. I don't know. So then I feel weird about wanting to ask probing questions, wanting to ask, what is the lesson plan? Can I see? Can I come watch? Let me see what he did today. Hey, he came home with this. What is this? This doesn't make sense. So I kind of don't want to say anything because I don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers. I don't want, if something does go wrong, you don't feel comfortable telling me because I already question you about the little stuff. So it's like, it's weird. Like I want to make sure my child is safe, but it's also like, I don't want to ruffle feathers too much. So I'm accepting subpar care because I don't want to come off a certain way and you treat my kid a certain way or you treat me a certain way going forward. So that's kind of, and then there's money, right? Money's also a thing. Like we can jump and go to a highly rated school out here, a private school that maybe has more of these type of teachers that you are talking about, but there's the wait list, there's tuition, there's commutes, like there may not be one in your area. So how do we deal with not having that type of teacher?
So the center in which you, okay, so that goes back to, we're in different states, so I have to make sure when I think about the standards, we always talk about standards here because when I think about the different childcare settings, that usually can determine, So there's ways that you can ask questions. And I know, and you have a right. That's the first thing. Cause I think you know, one thing you said is that I felt like you said a little, like you were a little uncertain about what's happening with your child or at your child's school. And you want to know these things, but you don't want to come off like you are just, you know, being the parent that no one
I'm
wants
untrusting or just, you know, jumping to conclusions. I want them to explain themselves. And I feel the same way you feel. I'm like, you chose to work in childcare. You know, people are going to question you on what you're doing with their kids. Because I worked in childcare and I got asked uncomfortable questions all the time and I had to answer them. I had to write up incident reports. I had to be as thorough as possible. So now, you know, I have questions I want to ask and I'm kind of hearing, well, give them grace, give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm like,
so
well,
who are you asking when they say give you grace, give them the benefit?
Well, when I'm talking about it with with his dad. Like we're talking about what happened, and he'll sometimes say, you know, he wants to be the one to ask them because he's concerned about how it's going to come off if I ask. But I feel like, you know, when you work in childcare, you do have standards, you do have people to answer to, and you do have to be held accountable for a lot of things. And if it makes me an annoying parent because I want to ask, that's one thing, I'll get over it. But I don't want you to treat my child differently, or like I said, going forward, not tell me about incidences because you feel like I took something small and blew it up. So you're not going to tell me the big things.
So the way that I would deal with that, the first thing I would do is I would ask if it was possible, if we could have a time where we can actually meet, because that does kind of like if you're asking a question on the way out the door or early in the morning when you have to go, it is going to seem like it's rush. So when you have concerns or questions, when you actually sit down with the teacher, the first thing you can do is, like they always do at any job, you start off by telling her, you know, hey, I thank you for coming to this meeting with me. You know, I just have some questions, and I want you to know I'm not coming at you in a way of attacking, but these are just some concerns that I have, and not because I don't feel like my child is not being offered good care, but I just have some concerns that I just want to know, because I want to know what I can do at home. Because sometimes if you let them know and you say, I too want to know what I can do so that we can be on the same page when dealing with this particular issue with children, bring those questions out. And when you bring them out, just say, okay, thank you so much, and say really what you feel. I think you have that right. You are leaving your most prized possession in the hands of people that you just have to trust off of what you see and what you've been told. So as a mother, when you sit down and you want to have these conversations, you can go ahead and just say, let her know, you know, I'm not asking these questions because I feel like I don't want you to feel attacked. Go ahead and let her know that that's not your purpose. But at the same time, you need answers to these things that are going on, and you want to know, and you have that right. I can't think of it enough. I've had so many conversations with parents, and the parents sometimes were thinking things were one way, but after we sat down and talked about it, they kind of understood. So when you give a teacher an opportunity to explain herself, she should be able to do just that. Explain herself.
That's another thing. And I don't know if this is common and I'm just not familiar. Because I never did it when I worked in childcare, like an actual conversation. So when it did come to a point where I said, hey, I have some concerns, I want to talk, it was with the director. It wasn't with the teachers in the classroom. So then I was told, you know, they would have a conversation with the teacher and get back to me, which they didn't. But
I will tell you this. Let me tell you, and I say this all firsthand. A good director would tell that parent, let's set up a conference and we meet. Never, ever should a person who didn't experience or don't know anything about the situation should be able to be the voice, the mouthpiece to be able to transfer information. If you and I had an issue with one another, why would I tell Melissa to go and talk with you? Wouldn't it come out better if you and I could sit down and talk about that and try to find some resolutions ourselves? And I think that's kind of what needs to happen. And I see it all the time. And what usually happens is a director will go back to the teacher and it will come off the way that you don't want it to come off. Because the first thing they'll say is, you know, a parent came to me and they told me that this, and this has happened. You know, if I see this again, it could be a write-up. You know, this should have never happened. This is not our standards. This is da-da-da. So then it does come off that way. But if you have the conversation yourself, and you can request that, say, I would just like to talk to her myself, because I feel like, you know, if we sit down and talk, we need to be able to come up with some suggestions or some solutions, or to try to figure this thing out. Because the director, 9 times out of 10, when she goes back, she's not going back in the way in which it's going to be a way to resolve that issue. She's coming back like, you better get together. And if this mom comes back to me again, it's going to be a write-up. Or it's going to be
too, Nick, if a lot of parents are not invested in their children's education, and teachers can tell you, and I've seen it so many years, you get the ones, they rush in the door, they almost throw their kids at you, they come in the afternoon, they scoop them up like they got to beat rush hour traffic, and there's never conversation. And if you're that parent that is taking the time to look at the lesson plan at the beginning of the week and say, okay, so this is what we're doing. And then you ask him, hey, can you tell me about this? And he has no clue. That means they're not following lesson plans. And then when you go back, say, hey, I was looking at the lesson plan and I was expecting to have a conversation with him about whatever. And did the lesson plan change? Or because now they're on notice that, oh, somebody's paying attention to this lesson plan. So now I've got to follow. So you're not confrontational. You're trying to be the parent that's following up. And now I've got to be as a teacher on my job because somebody is really actually paying attention to the lesson plan. So it doesn't have to come off confrontational. It could come off as concern. And when you come off as concern, that is totally different. And like you say, you know me, I can be aggressive too. But when I walk into the room, I'm not trying to give the teacher that, but I need the same information. So find out a way to ask the questions without being confrontational, and that's paying attention to the lesson plan. And I believe if you talk to the teacher and you don't get resolution, then you go to the director. Yes. If you go directly to the director and then the director is going to the teacher, now the teacher is feeling some sort of way. And that then they're feeling some type
of way. They really are, because it's like because you try to tell your parents that you have an open door policy, that if there are any questions, comments, or concerns, please bring them to me and let's talk about them. But when you don't give a teacher an opportunity to talk to you about it and you go straight to their boss, then they become a little standoffish or may become reserved. Now, I've had several situations that I can think of. Like, I've had parents who've come, like, the one that gets me the most is, we had a little African-American family, and she was like, every time you change his clothes when he's dirty, you need to change his shoes too. She would bring a whole outfit with the shoes in there. And I said, well, you know what? Here at the school, can you please just bring clothes that your child can play in? Because they're like, can you make sure that he doesn't paint in these clothes? Can you put him on something? Absolutely not. Like, when your child comes to school, your child needs to come to school. But see, I didn't take that approach of absolutely not. I was just like, oh, well, see, can you bring some clothes or put them in clothes that you don't mind getting dirty or a little something? Because here we're having such a great time all day, and we have an open environment where our children are able to go and explore in all these different classrooms. And we can't stop kids from learning and doing things for the sake of clothing. So, it's ways that you can say things if you are that type of teacher without just like, well, we don't do that here. Those are red flags. When you start getting teachers to speak to you like, well, that's not what, I've seen it. I've been in classrooms and I'll ask, and they was like, I don't know, I'm just in here. I'm the afternoon person that comes in here because the teacher's gone home. And I'm like, okay.
That was another one, because I understand a shift change, but there's normally a pass down. So if I'm coming to pick him up and I say, how's his day? Oh, I've not been with him all day. Nobody said anything, they left. Like,
yes. And so you want to know, right? And so those are things. You're not being a parent that's asking really any questions that I myself would not ask. Now,
I don't think it's me. Like, I'm to a point where I don't think it's me. I think it's just them, because these are total, like you said, this is my most prized possession. You signed up to work in childcare. These are very normal questions. And if you are offended by these questions, or if it's not an environment where I can just talk directly to the teacher, either because maybe this happens a lot and the director thinks that she's actually protecting her teachers so that people don't come and talk really aggressive to the teachers. But, it's just, there is a huge disconnect between, the paperwork you get for onboarding and all that, for registration and all this stuff, and what actually happens. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. But let's talk about, okay, so the book said this, but now we're doing this. What is it? What's going on? And if those questions are irritating, then I just feel like you either need to quit, which is probably not going to happen, or I just need to find another childcare that is going to be willing to answer those questions.
And you really have the upper hand, and you should feel as comfortable as possible asking those questions, because it is about your child. And if their child was in care, I'm pretty sure they want to know. You haven't seen your child for 8 or 9 hours in a day. You want to know how his day's gone. I tell people all the time, don't sugarcoat things for parents. Oh, he was a little off today. And mom's like, oh yeah, grandma, came over last night and he wanted to go with her and couldn't go. It may be reasons as to why you saw different behaviors or something different in the child, but it should be some kind of line of communication going on. I communicate with my parents all the time. But it's because, of course, like you'll say, I've been in it for a while, but they should be communicating with you. They have your child in their care. That is, you have that right. You have that right to ask questions, and don't feel bad about asking. Because guess what? At the end of the day, at the end of the day, you are the one that seems to be like, oh gosh, oh, I don't know, this is not good. And then you're worrying all day. That's not fair to you.
Rachel asked a while ago, she said, should we be expecting a difference between daycare, nursery school, preschool, early learning? People throw all these titles around. Should we expect a different quality of care because it's a daycare versus an early learning center?
I think it's just, a lot of it has to do with just the name. I don't think it really has a lot to do with anything else. You can call, some people like to, early learning child development center, and somebody else is like, we're just kindergarten kids. It doesn't matter what the name is. I think it's more so the quality of care. Now, what I will tell you is some parents do struggle when they feel like they have to put their kids somewhere where they may not necessarily want their child to be, but this is what they have available right now. Is anybody kind of dealing with that? Because I've seen parents who are just like, my child is down the road at such and such daycare, but I don't know. I gotta get him out of there because it's a mess. She's had 3 teachers in 6 months. I can understand.
But there's wait list. So it's like, because I mean, thinking back, even the childcare and I know I'm like wrapping a whole bunch, but obviously I need to switch daycares. But even the childcare he ended up in, that was not my first choice. We were on a waiting list for like 5 different places, and this is the first place that called back. And it was like, oh, okay, like it's fine. And since then, no one else has called back, or else maybe I would have considered moving. Mm-hmm. But even just assuming, like thinking now, starting to think about, okay, I really think I need to move him. I'm like, so what do I do in the meantime, in between time? Like, he's gonna be there until I can get off the wait list somewhere else.
I think you need to make sure that those questions that you have in your mind that you've been wanting to ask, there needs to be a meeting. Excuse me. I don't think that meeting needs to be with the director. I think that it needs to be a meeting that you have to be able to voice your concerns, and you all can sit down, and the environment is different. It's not like, they're still watching kids. You're trying to get words in. It's where you guys will have a chance to be able to talk. And to a lot of times too, I will tell you, directors sometimes will be like, well, can I help you? Let me talk to her. No, I don't need you to talk to her. I need to talk to her, because sometimes some things can be a misunderstanding. Some things can be misconstrued. But then again, sometimes they just want, they'll realize, well, okay, I know that I need to step up my game, because people can get burnt out and they can get lazy. And if you don't hold them accountable, they will just continue to do whatever it is that they want to do, and not necessarily what they're being paid to do. Now, some of these high quality childcare centers, they are now taking in people who are less qualified, but it's due to not having enough people in our field who are staying here. I don't know if you know about the shortages. We have a lot of shortages down here. People are getting degrees, and what's happening is they're leaving the early childhood field and they're going into the public school system. And they're doing that because the money's different. And that's one of the biggest problems that we have. Like right now, they're paying me an additional $5,000 a year to stay in early childhood education and not go to public school, which is, I'm going to be honest with you, I would never work in public school because I have no desire to work in public school. But if you're going to give me that grant money to stay here, I'm going to stay. I mean, I'm going to take it. But now I'm going to stay anyway. But they offered that to me. But this is what they're doing in the state of North Carolina, because everybody is leaving from the early childhood field and they're going either to pre-K Head Start, because that's a state job, a government job, or they're going to the public school system. So a lot of people are taking their children out of childcare centers and putting them in the pre-K Head Start programs, because if you are getting government funded money, you have to have degreed teachers and you have to follow the national state guidelines.
Rachel, your hand is up.
Yeah, I think also like what surprised me after I had my son was like there's so many details about childcare that no one tells you when you're going to all these doctor's appointments and getting ready. Because in the state of Maryland, I don't know how it is anywhere else, but to get into more than half of the daycares, you had to have been on the list while you were pregnant. If you want your child to get into daycare at like 7 months, that should be generous, right? But then the state has all these programs and whatever for preschool, for elementary, all these things. But then what happens to the earlier part? And then like companies like my job, they have like Bright Horizons where they're like, you get discounts for childcare. You call them, there's no opening for any. So it's like you're back to the hassle that I went through just to put my child in school. And knock on wood, by the grace of God, like I found one that was just like a needle in the haystack. But it was just like, wait, like this is another thing on the list of being a mom that no one tells you, right? Of just like, you have to start thinking about all these things even before they're even born. Not even like,
you need to think about them the moment you find out that you're pregnant. Yeah. It's sad to say that, but it's the truth. And if you think about it, one of the things like, for instance, they would like for me to come to the pre-K Head Start program. Well, they're all down here. They offer me, $50,000 to do that. Now, most childcare providers are making what, 13 to 15? You can make that at a gas station. Save yourself the drama. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm being as honest as I can. So you have to look at what's actually happening. So people are now saying, oh, okay, but if they go to a state funded daycare, they're going to pay them starting out about $18 or $19 an hour as long as they are going to school and they are furthering their education. So you are going to find them, but then the children who are getting a lot of those slots are children who are children from subsidy that don't have to pay. So they're throwing them in the slots, a lot of the slots. And so the paying mothers who just, that a lot of times that are coming by and they want to put their kids on the list, it's a huge waiting list because they give those names to these centers to the Department of Social Services because they'll pay top dollar for these children. With no copay.
Guaranteed check. It's a guaranteed check.
It's a guaranteed check. I mean, this is the bad, raw, and the ugly, but it is the truth. And so right now, at the center where I am, they were like, so when you get your degree, the first thing they asked is they were like, we know you're getting your master's. Are you planning on leaving? I said, no. Well, you can go ahead and tell us. It's almost like they thought I was lying. They were like, you can go ahead. It's okay. I mean, if you are, it's okay. It's okay. I said, I'm an early child care provider. I don't have a desire to work with the school system, even though I have my license to work with kindergarten through first grade. That's not my desire. But they don't find people who have that. And with the prices rising and the cost of living today, you can't afford really to stay in early childhood.
Tisha, what is it for off top? I'm just comparing North Carolina and Maryland. What is it for an infant per month down there right now?
$15.75.
$15.75. Y'all know up here you could be paying well over $3,000.
Oh, $15.75 is top notch down here.
Oh no. Oh no, you want top notch, you paying college tuition.
Yeah, if you're paying $15.75 a month, if you can afford to pay $15.75 a month, you can have them at some of the best childcare facilities down here. Ooh. It's just we're at a different, it's different here.
So we're getting to the end of time, but Nick, I just wanted to get Tisha's opinion on the conversation we've been having about the situation this week. Just okay. give it a broad
the short and sweet. Not so sweet. My child hurt himself. He's in a Velcro brace. Told him the first day he got injured, hey, he's not going to be in here. Give us some time to figure it out. Next day, I was like, okay, doctor said he can come back. Can we talk about what's going to look like for him to come back? They were thinking about it, couldn't really tell me what his return would look like with his limitations. asked, could you guys just freeze my account? Oh, let me see, I'll get back to you. So next week, didn't hear anything. We take him in because he's now walking. He just needs some help. And,
Liability.
huh?
He's a liability.
What?
No, I'm gonna tell you, instantly when you started talking, guess what I kept hearing? Liability.
So my concern, so like this, the short and sweet of it. So they're now telling me, well, an email was sent to me apparently by mistake saying he shouldn't come, he should not stay in school, and they can offer me a 50% discount on tuition to secure his spot. I immediately went to ADA regulations because the accommodation that he needs is if he wants to walk, hold his hand. That's it. He's still getting used to putting weight on his foot. Other than that, he's eating the same, sleeping the same. He does not require around-the-clock medication. Doctor said he can come back. And for you to tell me literally like he do not bring him back, and after his next doctor's appointment, we'll reassess and also pay us 50% after I've already paid you 2 weeks full. I feel like that's illegal.
It is, for one, because the doctor has already said that it's okay for him to come back. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doctors. And if the doctor has cleared him, it's one or two things that needs to happen. If they aren't willing to allow him to come back, they need to refund you your money back and just tell you that they cannot accommodate whatever the situation is. Because let me tell you why I say liability. So you said that he is walking in, he may just need someone to hold his hand to help him to walk wherever it is that he needs to go. Okay, so let's just say he's walking outside, he trips over something and he falls and he fractures his leg or arm or something more than what it already is. By law, they have to pay you out for that. By law.
What's the difference between if he just tripped on a regular day?
Well, the thing is that if it did more damage, it's more likely. So, okay, so, and I'm not, please don't think I'm being the devil's advocate. I promise you, I'm just immediately thinking to myself. So this is the thing. So if you hit your foot on the corner of the bed, you maybe can still walk, but in your process, if you hit that same spot again, the chances of you hurting it a lot worse than what it is, and it becoming worse than what it is, if something was to happen, is more likely than if it was fully functioning and okay.
And so and to a certain degree, I agree with you, and I agree with the part of give me my money back, and my spot should still be there because y'all are the ones who sent him home. I'm fine with him being there, but I also feel like the liability thing is you work in childcare. Like, I'm sorry, I don't understand.
If the doctor has already said that the child can come back, they cannot overrule a doctor and tell you that your child can't come back.
Literally said it's because he has mobility issues. So when you use words like that, I'm now looking up the legal regulations, and you should be able to accommodate this. And I don't understand why you can't. You have babies there who don't walk at all. And if you like knowingly registered a child with disabilities, you would have the proper parameters in place, whether the ratio goes smaller between teachers and kids, whether you structure the room in a certain way, whether when it's outside time, you put them in a classroom that's having inside time so that they're not outside. But I know for a fact there are things that you can do. So to say that because he needs his handheld is gonna totally screw up your work day or the children's day for other kids, I don't care about other kids. I pay the same thing that they pay. So you remember at the beginning when I said, when you ask those children to clean up, it's never a question of, do you want to clean up? It's how are we going to get this cleaned up? That's kind of how I would be about my son. So my son will be here on Monday. And what I need to know from you, I'm going to give you the rest of this week to come up with a plan and have it in place as to how you're going to accommodate my son, but he'll be here on Monday. Essentially, that's what we did. And then they told us, no, it's not working out. Based on what we've seen, we think he should stay home and just give us 50%. And so I immediately was like,
if you aren't going to offer me what I am paying, then I need all of my money back.
Yeah.
Because they can't make you save a spot when your child is able and willing to go to school.
I'm willing.
They are not willing to accommodate. They have to compensate you, or you sounds like a fresh lawsuit to me.
And I guess my
discriminate
position
against a
now,
child who has been, you cannot discriminate against a child who a parent, I mean, who the doctor has said it is that he is okay to return. That's just like work. If your doctor tells you you can go back to work and it's okay to go to work, and they tell you no, you still can't come back. No, but you still no. That's not how it works.
So the difficulty now is that now that it's been confronted, the things have changed, and now my son can come back. But the position I'm in is similar to what we were talking about, you know, having subpart teachers and we know this in the classroom, but we don't have anywhere else for them to go. Now, I don't even want him to go because y'all didn't want him there for whatever the reason, liability or not, y'all did not want him there. So even though now you're saying he can go there, and I guess I should be happy, I don't want him there because obviously something happened to make you say that he shouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah.
It sounds like it went from care to your son now being a nuisance to them.
Exactly.
Right? And just that feeling that the email invoked, like it's hard to get rid of that.
When I asked multiple
times,
times, you know, what will his return look like? From the day he got hurt, I said, I'm gonna call you back after his appointment so we can talk about what his return is going to look like. They took a week to think about it and I paid you. I paid you for that week. But now,
so, is this a chain childcare?
No, it's not actually.
Oh, it's not. Okay. Because I was going to say, it sounds like this is a higher level up situation that needs to be handled from. So
is that coming from the director or the owner, or the director is the owner?
The director. I do not believe the director is an owner because for like the funding, freezing my account thing, they had to run it by somebody. So I know there are.
Oh, that's who I would be talking to.
So whoever they running it by, that's who you need to be speaking to.
That's who you need to be talking. Yeah.
Because they don't want that lawsuit. Like the director is thinking like right here. The owner's going to already see the ADA violations, the lawsuit coming, and they're going to make some accommodations. So the person who is going to feel the effects of that pocketbook, that's who you want. That's who you want to talk to.
And but I understand what she's saying as well when she's saying now I kind of feel like, you know, since I've made us think about it, you know, how is my child going to be treated? And is this really, wow.
But if you're going to go with all your money. Don't leave your money on the table. Like she said, don't leave the 50%. You need to give me all of that, right? So I don't want to hear this 2-week foolishness. I don't want to hear what I need you to give me all of my money because now I'm going to use that money to pay another facility. So I definitely wouldn't let that go.
Yes, I definitely would not. And they could have never convinced me after I had a doctor clear my child to come back to school that you still tell me that my child cannot come to school and I'm still paying you too.
See, Tisha is the person that you take to your kids' school. I'm gonna tell you, I didn't see Tisha in action. I didn't see Tisha in action.
And nice, nasty. I mean, never getting ugly about it.
No. How she's talking now, when she's talking to you like that, I don't ask permission. It is, and how are we making this happen? What are we, like? It's always like right there. So I'm sure it is 10:05, ladies. We are overtime. I did want to say, no. I just want to say, so Tisha, Angie is from your neck of the woods.
Oh, okay.
From North Carolina. So
which part of North Carolina are you from?
Here she go. Come on.
Bun Level.
You're in the boonies, girl.
So you know. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yes. So yes. So
yes.
I just wanted to let you all know that it has been fun. I told you once we got on the roll, I knew it was going to be. Jasmine, if you have very specific questions about things, I wanted you to hear this conversation first before I sent you anything to actually put in the room, because I didn't want you to feel like you needed all the things. And like she said, for the kids, it's overwhelming, but for a parent,
I'm gonna take a picture, and I can take a picture of our center, our 2-year-old room and what we have. And I also can send you. We also have assessments as what 2-year-olds should know. And
please
what
send me that.
I have
those. I don't
those.
have that anymore. Please
so we have assessments that we do for the children, and we also Yeah, and I can show you. I can do a couple of different things. I can show you a
Yes.
couple.
I know
So
she should not be
please-
awake right now, but yeah.
That's all right. She was awake. She was awake last wind down. Remember, she was in the back. Turn it up. So
Yes.
she wants to be on wind down. So we appreciate her. So
Yes, and I appreciate.
Oh, no. What I'm
Mhm.
going to do is I'm going to end the live, but of course we can like stay in. We're just going to do the outro. So everybody just go, camera off and then mute, and then we can come back in like we do and stay in the room for a little bit. So let me just play the outro so I can release the audience. Thank you all for joining us. I still see we have a few viewers still on, and then this of course will rebroadcast on our YouTube page. But thank you all. Don't forget to like and share. We only have Angie, one more week, I think, in this series, the education of our children, which will be next week. So hope to see you back for that. And then we will tell you kind of how the series will move forward after that. I so appreciate your time for those that took the time to be with us tonight, and especially because we did run over by a few minutes, but I didn't want to cut the conversation for anything that's doing anything important. So thank you again to Tisha. We'll say our good nights formally with the group in a little bit, but thank you all for viewing. We are going to share and say good night.